Hey guys, and welcome to an insanely cool looking showdown as the mighty Rider of Rohan leads the forces of the High Elves up against Large Ivan and the Skaven Menace. Now these two lads have decided to bring no mages, spellcasters or any of those nasty trickery whatsoever, so I'm not sure if they're two friends just trying something out or if they both thought bold enough on ladder perhaps to go to battle with no magical assistance. Anyway, in the High Elf formation here in their glorious deployment zone is completely empty apart from a single Eagle Claw bolt thrower, decent long range armor piercing missiles, and that is going to be assisted by a handmaiden of the Ever Queen. Now she does give some lovely nice little buffs here. She has the enchanted Spyglass to increase the base weapon damage by 10%, Horn of Isha to increase that reload skill, and 5 melee attack, although not sure that's going to come in too handy, and the quick silver shot plus 10 reload skill. So very interesting High Elf build, but actually it's a little bit more interesting than it first seems. Of course, we have a huge, whopping, gigantic vanguard dotted all the way along. On the right hand side we have a couple units of Illyrian Reavers, and it looks like Reavers are going to be the main kind of bread and butter of this build. They are dotted all the way along, including a couple of missile variety as well. In the central, though, of this vanguarded force, we do have 4 units of Shadow Warriors, the elite bodyguard of Alith and Anar. These guys, masters of stalking in the shadows. And we even have the grey here as well, the Regiment of Renowned Version, who look particularly badass. These guys are going to be fighting, of course, alongside Alith and Anar, who has dotted himself right in the middle here. Let's have a nice little zoom up on the mighty Lord of Mischief and Shadows himself. And he is going to be bringing his Moon Bow, which is pretty expensive item all round, but can do some lovely damage. If you drop that on top of the Council Guard, for example, it will certainly get you some good value. He's also coming with Mislead, and he does have the Stone of Midnight, giving missile resistance, and Darken the Skies to increase reload skill. Now for the forces of the mighty Skaven here, pretty interesting force. On the left hand side we have some Rat Ogres, and it looks like we have another one on the right hand side as well. These guys good counter initiation unit. Your enemy's cavalry come in and you punch back with the Rat Ogres, and they do that rather successfully. We have Skaven slaves with spears dotted along, and it looks like double Rattling Gunners on this right hand flank, double Warplock Gazelles on the left. Personally I like to see one on each flank supported by the other, but still that's a lot of long range fire support. In the central pocket, we actually have some elite Skaven, which is something is a relatively rare thing to see normally. But these are 2 units of Storm Vermin with halberds, and these guys are anti-large, relatively elite, at least for the forces of the Skaven. And they're going to be protecting a Plague Core catapult. And there's more Skaven slaves dotted around, just giving a little bit more mass to this build. And for the leadership, we do have a basic Warlord, and he is going to be on his horrific-looking Rat Ogre mount here, which looks pretty scary. I believe it is called a Bone Breaker, in fact. And he's coming in with Deadly Onslaught, Verminous Valor, as well as Rally. So he's cheap, he's cheerful, and he's happy to be here. Not so happy, though, to be getting shot in the back by all those Shadow Warriors. Now, they may lack the added punch of something like a Way Watcher, but still, they do a pretty decent job up against the lightly armoured foes, and 70 armour isn't crazy, especially for such a high-value target. Skaven slaves are, unfortunately for them, the first ones into the fight, as the Illyrian Reavers do come in with some lancing charges, but it looks like the main force now of the Skaven have turned face to unleash hell upon the High Elves. Although Illyrian Reavers are starting to reave into the back line, some fantastic micro here as he whips around some Skaven slaves to try and put pressure on the Plague Claw catapults, but the Rattling Gunners were ready, obliterating many of these Reavers on the charge, allowing the Storm Vermin with halberds to catch up and start just cleaving apart these poor archers, although they've done a decent amount of shock damage to the Plague Core catapult all round. Now, it's quite an interesting tactic, this, having the 1 artillery piece. The Skaven can't really afford to push it. They could run up there with a unit of Rat Ogres, but it's quite a long trek and they need them in the back line to protect. So actually having no defense for the Eagle Claw bolt thrower is almost its defense, because the opponent can't waste time trying to chase it down. Shadow Warriors now doing some lovely burst damage onto the Poisoned Wind mortars, and going to be changing their targets now to the Rattling Gunners, although taking a huge amount of damage in the process. And it looks like a lot of the Illyrian Reavers have started to give up hope. Nice cycle charging coming around, though, trying to hit units left, right, and centre. Rat Ogres are going to be an absolute pain here. And this is a huge amount of micro on both sides, but certainly for the Rider of Rohan with a very thematic build here. Illyrian Reavers have charged into Clan Rats now, and this is a good fight for them, but they don't want to stay in combat. They want to kind of be cycling as much as possible, and in the distance you can see he's doing just that. Illyrian Reavers do manage to clear up some Skaven slave spears before hunting down these pesky Warplock Gazelles, who aren't going to have too good of a time. Looks like the bolt thrower's been shooting them pretty consistently as well. In the distance, the Stormvermin, more elite Skaven troops all round, including the Rat Ogres, are now starting to get into the back lines, shutting down these Shadow Warriors. But is it going to be for good? Rat Ogres getting kited here and obliterated by a multitude of shots. Nice little use of the Alith and Anar decoy to pin those guys in. Now, the distance, this is some good play by the Skaven player, realising, you know what, it's a bit of a mess in the back, so I'm going to be forced forward to take down the Bolt Thrower and get it offline as quickly as possible. The Handmaiden is an okay melee combatant. She is anti-large, but she's not going to be able to save this situation. You can see the Eagle Bolt Thrower crew getting dismantled very, very quickly there. In the back lines, the Warlord has popped all his buffs, trying to keep his troops in the fight for as long as possible. Rattling Gunners, though, have decided to flee for their lives, and the Clan Rats are now chasing down their Illyrian Reavers, doing a pretty decent job. Looks like these guys taking a little bit of burst damage as well. Is that the Mortars back online? It is indeed. Poison Mortars, one of the scariest units in the entire game. High Elves have now started to be kind of forced into this corner and pressured back. Shadow Warriors are starting to run out of a lot of ammunition. However, the Warlord is getting rather weak as well. It looks like he may indeed break here, as the Illyrian Reavers do come with a lovely charge, but he's just about going to be able to flee out of the way in time. And a lot of those arrows are missing, so using up a lot of the ammunition of the Shadow Warriors here. Illyrian Reavers are now pushing into the back lines, trying to chase down the Rattling Gunners, Poison Mortars, just keep the range contingent of the Skaven force offline for as long as possible. We'll get the most out of the Skirmish Corps for the High Elves. Playcore Catapult has finally been shut down here by a mixture of Illyrian Reavers, 2 units in fact, who are now going to turn their sights and absolutely dart across the battlefield after the Warlord, who's stamping the ground here in frustration, but may turn to in fact meet this engagement and go head to head with the enemy. Nope, he's actually going to flee and try to catch up with the rest of his forces. Shadow Warriors simply going to be running away at the moment. Now, shooting into Clan Rats isn't going to get the most value, but it's certainly a deed that needs to be done. The Storm Vermin coming in are going to be rather scary. However, some of the Shadow Warriors do have nice amounts of ammunition left on them. Double Illyrian Reavers on the charge do a decent amount of shock damage. They are overall shock cavalry, so as you can see here, they're a pretty decent charge bonus of 40 has allowed them to overthrow the Warlord, who is isolated from his troops. Clan Rats are going to be coming in to try and save the day, but the Illyrian Reavers can simply peel away here, use their added mobility, and then come back in and cycle charge down or break through to the Warlord himself. So it looks like Clan Rats are starting to give up hope, and a lot of the Skaven are running for the hills. Storm Vermin, however, are still going relatively strong. Shadow Warriors, let's have a little look. Ammunition, 2 volleys here, 2 volleys here. It's really just this one unit which has a lot of ammunition left for them. In the distance, the Handmaiden has simply been left behind by the Rat Ogres, which is probably a good idea. They finished off the long-range targets. Now need to come back, use their mobility to stomp in these Illyrian Reavers and help catch the Shadow Warriors. And it looks like that's just what they're going to be doing. And the Warport Gazelles as well are kind of back online, firing a few shots in, and there's some Rattling Gunners there for a little bit of support. So a very close game still, very interesting one as well, although the Shadow Warriors now getting a very, very low on ammunition, some of them being completely done for, and the Warlord has rallied himself to the cause, and that Bone Breaker mount coming in, clobbering some Shadow Warriors, but a big fat moonbow to the face from the real Alith and Anar, who's kind of over on this left flank. There's some massive shock damage, and the Warlord probably wants to just fall back, get amongst his Storm Vermin, and hide until the late game here. Alith and Anar as well, still a decent amount of ammunition, can focus him down if need be. Rat Ogres in the back line are once again focused down the Reavers, which is a good idea, but at the same time, probably want to use their mobility to catch the Shadow Warriors who still have that range damage on them. Skaven Slave Spears fighting alongside the Rat Ogre Brethren here, who are doing a decent job clawing their way through these people. In the distance, the Alith and Anar decoy has managed to bunch up a unit of Storm Vermin and keep those guys pinned in, and all this while Alith and Anar has been firing shots into the Warlord, who is going to be fleeing. And this is a bit of a problem when the High Elves get so close to the board edge. Of course, Skaven are very, very brittle on their leadership, and as soon as they break, they're simply going to be running to the battle edge very, very quickly, although the Warlord is going to be taking the longest route possible and kind of going diagonal here, then straight off. I believe you do run from the opponent who is doing the damage to you, and it looks like the Warlord is going to be rallying before taking a shot to the back and once again running away, down to just 500 health. Let's see if Alith and Anar gets another shot off. It looks like it probably won't matter, as he has been shattered, so Alith and Anar is going to be switching his targets and running away once more. Now, balance power for the first time is in favour of the High Elves. You can see a lot of the Shadow Warriors have been caught, but they're dealing with Clan Rats, and Shadow Warriors are pretty meaty combatants all round. Let's get some nice little cinematics of the High Elves fleeing and the Grey standing their ground with their mighty swords covered in blood, drenched in the blood of both friend and foe. Doing a decent job here. Going to be clearing up the Clan Rats relatively easily. Alith and Anar still being alive is a big boon to the High Elves. A lot of their troops are now starting to fall apart. Shadow Warriors getting surrounded and butchered by a mixture of clan rats and storm vermin. And storm vermin still 95 here. It's going to be pretty scary, although the rat ogres have started to abandon the field. And it looks like there is kind of mainly one pocket of Skaven troops left alive. The Handmaiden has been able to clear up a lot of the rallying troops who were coming back into the fold. So let's see, the Grey 21, looks like the Skaven is going to throw in the towel there. I was going to do a little recount, see who's got the most troops left alive, but it looks like it is pretty much over. Alith Anar would be able to hold his ground for a long time, and an effective cycle charging by some of the remnants and heroes of this high elf troop probably would have been able to seal the day for good, but alas, we shall never know. Very well played to both players, a super interesting game between Rider of Rohan and Large Ivan. No spellcasters is particularly wild. Obviously, these guys were just having a good time. I would highly recommend bringing a spellcaster in every single game you can. It's just free value that you're kind of thrown away there. But as I said before, these guys probably just having a bit of a laugh with some very interesting builds. And Rider of Rohan coming in with a rather thematic build for his name. A ton of cavalry and a big, heroic charge in from the rear there. Shadow Warriors all round didn't get the most fantastic damage value. Still very, very good, but to nothing too crazy. But again, they kind of shut down the key targets. The mortars, the Giselles did big damage to the rat ogres as well as helping take down that warlord on the mighty mount itself. Doing some good damage all round. But the real MVPs here, I think, bouncing around were those Illyrian Reavers. Not only did they get some okay value themselves, but they managed to pin in a lot of the enemy troops and allow the Shadow Warriors to try and carry the day. Good use as well of the Eelclaw Bolt Thrower. It's like, hey, you can walk all the way across the map if you want, just to come shut down this one artillery piece, and in doing so, leaving your backlines even more open than they currently are. So a real interesting tactic of having this little kind of fire support base in the distance, just harassing and annoying the Skaven, although they eventually did go over there and shut it down. Alith Anar getting 3,800 damage value is some nice stuff as well. As for Large Ivan, I'm a big fan of him trialing out the Warlord here. Unfortunately, he basically got no damage value back. Did some big damage all round, but was a bit of a ping cushion, unfortunately for him, for the Shadow Warriors. But he did rally multiple times. I would like to see the Warlord use a little bit more on the Mighty Mount, just to see how he does fare in other engagements. Apart from that, the artillery, of course, struggled in a matchup like this. The mortars still getting very good damage value, and they're so good, the poison with mortars all round. Despite the fact they got shut down very early on, they did manage to rally, come back, and still get some really good work done. The Warlord Giselles, however, and the Rattling Gunners got a little bit more punished, although there was some nice covering fire into the back lines on the Illyrian Reavers as they darted through the ranks. Also cool to see the more elite Storm Vermin here, who are the real backbone of the Skaven push, trying to drive out to the Shadow Warriors and pin them in the corner. But I think they really needed both units of Rat Ogres working together to kind of surround the High Elves, push them into that corner, and then bring the numbers to bear. Unfortunately, one of the Rat Ogres had to go fight the Eelclaw Bolt Thrower, and then, the other one got picked apart by Shadow Warriors. Anyway guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. If you'd like to see your own replays up on the channel, please send them in via my Discord. There's a link in the description down below. And yeah, if you want to support the channel in any other way, there are links to Patreon in the description down below as well. And also you can become a member on the channel. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.